Lucy? Hello. Again. Yes, I can hear you. Can you all hear Lucy? Yes,
Hello.
Lucy? Yes. They
Great.
can. Happy
Okay.
Teachers Day. Yes. Here in
Wonderful.
Argentina, today is our Teachers Day. It's a
Oh,
holiday for teachers.
oh,
And you
that's such a
see,
nice
we
thing.
Yes, and this shows how we love our profession and how devoted we are to it. Yes, it's a
Wonderful.
holiday and we are uh, on a conference, yes, online conference for our
Oh,
development. So I'm going
fantastic.
to tell you a little bit about Lucy. Yes, Lucy is a teacher trainer, and storytelling. She has given lectures and workshops around the world. Lucy has been writing for the primary classroom since 2008, and she's also been involved in projects for Macmillan in South America, Europe, and Asia. She's one of the authors of the Literacy Strand for Global Stage, a new series that we have, and she also runs school in Florianopolis. And today, Lucy's talk, Storytelling for Connection and Social Emotional Support in Challenging Times. We are going to look at a number of stories and picture books that are suitable for the primary learner using very simple materials. Teacher will receive tips on how to work with beautiful images, how to use costumes and props, how to make sound effects, sounds great, and the best way to use a story voice. As we gain confidence as storytellers, we can also spread beautiful messages of love and hope in these challenging times. So it sounds wonderful. Well, I really hope you enjoy the session, and over to you, Lucy. Good luck.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mariella, for the lovely welcome, and much appreciated that everybody's here from all corners of the globe. I really do have a special place in my heart for Argentina, because it was the first place that I started writing, and traveled a lot to different places. So I'm really happy to see everyone from there. I can see people from Brazil, Uruguay. I know that we had some teachers today from Russia wanting to join. So welcome, happy Teachers Day, fantastic. Thank you for being here. So let me start. I'm going to start with this lovely quote from Ken Robinson, who very recently left us, but left the most beautiful work for us as educators. And he says, human resources are like natural resources. They're often buried deep. You have to go looking for them. They're not just lying on the surface. You have to create the circumstances where they show themselves. And I think, you know, stories are the most wonderful vehicle, the most wonderful thing to use in the classroom, to find ways to connect to our students and to find ways to bring out the best in them. And I think it's such a wonderful tool for us to have, because there are so many different stories, and we can do stories in the classroom in hundreds of different ways. But I think the most beautiful thing is the connection that we can build with our students, which I think you'll agree is really, really important right now as well. So this is the plan for today. Let me just move this over here. We're going to look at the essential elements of storytelling. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about why we would use stories, what kind of stories, and how we can use stories online. I've got next to me a lot of bits and pieces from my homemade story toolkit, things you can find at home, nothing too elaborate. I'm also going to talk about, especially when we're talking on screens, our faces and the way we use our voices, especially for stories. We're going to have a little look as well at the importance, especially for students in early literacy, the importance of illustrations and how we can use visual thinking routines to connect the story to our students, to personalize, and it's a very beautiful way of starting a story as well. So I'm going to talk about that. I've got some posters that I've made. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen this little poster. It's an interactive one. I will talk about that in a little while. I've got a couple of anecdotes because I think real life stories are beautiful to use as well. And then final thoughts, a little bit of music. I have got a lot of things to share. And, you know, I get very excited. So I hope it's not too much information for you too quickly, if you know what I mean. So I think that the arts are very important, and this is again another thing from Ken Robinson's work, you know, the importance of arts in a way that we express deep concepts of cultural value and the most profound way I think that we understand ourselves. So for me, personally speaking, arts have to be very given enough importance in school, you know, and not just the dramatic arts, but we're talking about dance, we're talking about music, we're talking about sculpture, we're talking about project-based learning, doing things, thinking creatively. So, and I think that's the way that we are going to move forward when we get out of this COVID situation, you know. We've already had to be very, very creative. And also, we also have to make our classes as personal as possible, because as I've said, the connection that we have with our students is really paramount right now, you know. So remember some of these little things. Talk to your students about things other than school related subjects, you know. Personalization is key right now. Remember little things they tell you about their lives, the name of their dog, you know, any little tiny things they tell you, try and remember it or write it down. When you're going to tell an anecdote, you're going to tell them something about your life, and that's really empowering as well. You're going to share a slice of yourself, not just as a teacher, but as a human being too, and that's incredibly powerful. When you're going to play your online games and things with your students, play as well. Don't just be an observer. Play those games with your students, yes? Share inspirational stories, especially those of you who work with teenagers. I think that's really important as well. And always use your students' interests, not only to choose your stories, but to plan your classes, obviously. I'm pretty sure you all do that. So as we move into this new area of education, it's not like we're going back to what we had before. We're really creating something new, and in that way we have to, you know, press the reset button on what our classroom is going to look like when we come out of quarantine. And there are lots of words like flying around right now, like adaptable. We've got to be more adaptable. We've got to teach our students resilience as well, so they have good problem solving skills to use in difficult times. We have to create more cooperative spaces in our classrooms as well. And we have to innovate and keep things new. But you know what? For me, the bottom line is that we've got to keep on remembering that we've got human beings in our hands, in our classrooms every day, and that we need to help them to be loving and caring citizens of the world. And that's the bottom line, yeah? So sometimes I think we make it a little bit more complicated, but at the end of the day, it's the human beings that matter, right? All right. So this is the first question. I'm going to ask you to answer a poll question. And the first one is, I'd love to know who told you stories when you were a child. Okay, I'm going to launch the poll question now for you. And I'm going to ask you to vote. So let me know who told you stories when you were a child. Was it your mum or your dad? Was it your brother or your sister? Or perhaps it was grandparents or teachers? Or perhaps you didn't have anybody telling you stories, you just had yourself. So, okay. We've got people writing the chat box, we've got people doing the poll, that's wonderful. We've got mums and fathers, primary school teachers, grandmas. Grandparents are amazing, aren't they? Yes, okay. Lots of teachers. Oh, nice to see you. Okay, and parents, and sometimes you told the stories yourself. All right, great. I'm going to stop and share the results. see. Can't quite see what it says actually. It says 60%, but I can't see if it's stop sharing. Okay. Well, where's it gone? Okay, so when we think about storytelling, we immediately think about how we had stories told to us as children. And this was my storybook that I got when I was about 7 years old. It's called Schubertina's Birthday Party. And it even says here, I got it from my granny. It says happy moments from Granny. And what I loved most about this book was that there were no words in it. It's a story with no words on the page. I'm just going to open up a page for you to see. And it has these little mini pages. It's very old and falling apart, but it has these little half pages in the middle as well. And what I loved about this story that my mother used to tell me was that it would change every time slightly. The names can change, the vocabulary my mum used to tell me the story might change a little bit, because it wasn't a story stuck on words. It had these most beautiful images. So those kind of stories are very interesting too, especially if you like giving your story a personal thing to it. So I also like to have this little framework here, and this is written, it's a book written by a lady called Betty Staley, and it's called Between Form and Freedom. And that's such a clever title, I think, because for education, we don't want our students stuck into this pre-molded shape, you know. We have to give them a certain amount of freedom, but if we give them too much freedom, we need to give them a structure. So it's getting that balance between form and freedom. And this is what Betty says about the first 21 years of a young person's life, the 7-year cycles. And obviously these cycles, it's not like set in stone, but this is a basic framework for how children think and develop. So from 0 to 7, the young child thinks through doing and learns through imitation. And you can see by that photograph there, the little boy imitating the cat. So in terms of the teacher in the classroom, it's very important about the way you look and the words you use and the gestures that you have with your hands, because those little children are going to be copying you. Yeah, so you have to be very careful if you're a young learner teacher. And I love seeing in schools when the sort of the older and more experienced teachers are teaching the young students. I think the wisdom starts in the early years. And from 7 to 14, the child thinks in pictures and learns through feelings, right? And I think that's a beautiful picture there too, a photograph of a girl. She mustn't be more than about 9.5, 10. And that's the transitional moment where the child is going from the fantasy, beautiful play world and opening out into the real world, where thoughts and feelings are much stronger. It's like a slow awakening, right? And then from 14 to 21, the young person thinks conceptually and learns through intellect. That's where the real intellectual concepts type learning happens. So how does that framework apply to stories? Well, the kind of stories that are suitable for 0 to 7-year-olds, and this is like generally speaking, stories that have movement, a lot of movement, stories that imitate the child's daily life, so routines, home life. Cumulative stories are very good as well for language, especially for us who are, we are language teachers. So repetitive language chunks in the story. From 7 to 14, also cumulative stories that involve some sort of journey, some sort of hard work and patience and striving to reach a new horizon. One example of that could be perhaps Jack and the Beanstalk, because it's he has to go up the the beanstalk a few times, and he's got to manage the giant, and there's all sorts of different things that come into the story. And so those stories are good, I think, for that age range, because they really work with feelings and you know, how to solve problems. And for the older students, 14 to 21, we have the beautiful possibility of using biographical stories that you know, show courage and strength and this evolution of the soul. And in my little school here in Florianopolis, we often use the Macmillan readers, because they're very carefully put together, and often those stories that we read as a group, especially with the teenagers, become a play as well. So books can be very, very helpful, not only to bring language into the classroom, but also to bring the arts, as I've mentioned before. Okay. So here's another little question for you, okay? I want to know how often you use stories in your classroom, right? Do you use the stories always? Do you always have a story? Do you use the stories just sometimes, or do you never get a chance to use the stories? And I know that when we've got a very tight curriculum, it's difficult to find the time sometimes for stories, yeah, because we have a lot of content to you know, to teach. But my solution to that is the personal anecdotes, those little tiny stories that you have in your back pocket, those little stories that happen to you as you go to school on the bus, for example. Those are always the kind of stories that you can use if you have a very sort of heavy schedule at school. Okay, at least once a week. You love stories, great, always use stories. Literature, excellent. Okay, yes, exactly. So stories challenge students to listen, and it's a difficult thing for them to do, listen and concentrate, you know, today. So hopefully I'll give you some tips on how to do that. Great. All right, so we've got an idea of how many we've got an idea pretty much of how many how often you use stories in the classroom. Good, thank you very much. Okay, so now let's have a look. What types of story can we use when we're teaching remotely? Well, as I've said, I think these stories, especially for young learners, these stories that you know, that don't have, this is actually written in Portuguese, but there are no words inside the story. So this is lovely, especially for the more creative teachers, you know, who love language. So you can create your own language about what's happening here. And also, you know, you can make it as simple as possible. You can tell a story with just a few words, right? So you can use stories without words, non-fiction stories as well, as we've said. You know, you might find out that some of your students are interested in you know, sports people, so you could talk about it. You know, it doesn't have to be a once upon a time story all the time. You can give them something else. One of my favorites is stories with props, as you might know, and I've got loads of things here next to me, and I want to show you my bag of tricks, my story toolkit, and I'll do that in a minute. But you know, just having something really tiny, whatever it is, whatever you've got round in your house. I mean, if you have your own kids, you might, you know, be using their toys, but this is just a little cup of tea in the middle of class. And it's curious for the students because it's just a little tiny cup of tea, right? So these little things that you can have. What? Yes. So little things that you have around you spice up your classes a little bit. And as I've said, the face-to-face stories, I think, are really nice. All right. So what have I got in my toolkit? Now, it's a very simple toolkit, you know. It could be a hat, it could be a piece of cloth for a cape. This is a hat that I got when I was traveling, and it's very nice. It's perfect to tell a story about, you know, the story about the tiger who came to tea. You see, a little cup and saucer. If you don't have a tiger hat, you can paint a little bit of a tiger on your face. But dressing up clothes, whatever you've got around your house, are wonderful to bring a little bit of lightness and a bit of fun into your classroom, you know. We do concentrate a lot on getting the language and thinking about vocabulary and language chunks and structures. But, you know, storytelling is also like to bring a little bit of lightness and laughter, especially these days, right? Also musical instruments. And if you don't have any, you can just get a little pot and put some rice in it. You know, you can do a lot with a little bit of rice, a bit of rain. You can do a little bit of rhythm for a chant. And I do also like to have my toys. You know, they don't have to be puppets. They can just be a simple little toy, you know. The toys that are easy to manipulate are kind of better than plastic toys. This is a little bunny that helps me. Lily, her name is. What else? Nature. So nature has a lot of different things. Like this is something I have in my garden right now. And it's actually, I've made it into the little lamp in the story for the fairies, because it's very dark and they need to see the way. So nature is a wonderful thing to have. I've also used a pine cone as the, you know, the story about the 3 billy goats who go across the bridge. So I've used little bits of wood for the billy goats, and this was the troll, the ogre that lives under the bridge. And for the little children, it's particularly nice to give them simple objects so they can create their own images of things. Yes, we've also got plastic animals, anything that you've got around you. And if you don't have anything of that, you can also dress up a bottle. This could be Little Red Riding Hood without a problem at all. Just a bottle and a little bit of red cloth, you know. And I think, you know, when you're simple and creative, it can really enchant the students because it'll be something they haven't seen before. Yeah. So we've all got these things lying around the house. So you'll have to find what you can, you know. And I also love using different pieces of cloth as well. You know, a nice dark piece of cloth for a witchy character that you can put around your shoulders, or you can tear like that, or something very interesting. Yeah, so you can play around, and that's the thing, play with the things that you have. This is the puppet that you know, some of you might have seen this before in my workshops, but it's such an easy thing to do. And if you want, you can just take a photograph of the screen, but you need a square piece of cloth, and then you're going to put it into the shape of a triangle, like a mountain, and you're going to tie a knot in the top of it. So this could be a little rabbit. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Don't let the farmer have his fun, fun, fun. He'll get by without a rabbit pie. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Very, very simple with a piece of cloth. And if we tuck the ears down like this, and we wrap the bottom of the cloth around our hand, just in the drawing that you have there, you can see that we can have, just put it around my hand, a little tiny person. Very simple, you know. And when we give our students an empty face, obviously they're going to create what that face looks like. So the movement of creativity and curiosity and imagination is an inward movement for them to think about what this face looks like. And that's what we want. We don't want to give them like obvious things all the time. Okay, it's very easy to do. So just take a quick screenshot of this plan and you'll be able to do it. Okay. Now, a little bit about the teacher's voice. Okay, when we're going to tell a story, it's important as well that we check our breathing so that we don't get out of breath when we're telling a story. And also when we have enough air in our lungs, it helps us to change the tone of the voice, and it gives your voice a different quality than if you're not taking any, the voice, you need to breathe. Okay, so don't forget, breathing is very important. Speaking with enthusiasm as well, because nobody wants to have a story like, once upon a time there lived an old man. You've got to give it a little bit of enthusiasm. Yeah. And you can also vary the pace and the pitch and the volume of your delivery. I'm going to give you some little ideas about that. And as we are language teachers, obviously we have to practice our pronunciation. Perhaps you have to practice the story a couple of times at home or in front of the mirror before you take it into your school, or you're going to tell them online. So you have to practice it a little bit, okay? And don't forget the compelling power of the pause. Pausing in the middle of the narrative can give a really special dramatic effect to your story. And I'm going to show you how you can use different voices. Now, some of you might be thinking, you're thinking it's funny. Some of you might be thinking that, oh, well, I'm not an actress, or I haven't studied drama and I just do it in my regular voice. And that's fine as well. As long as you have intonation and expression, you can use your regular voice. Or you can slowly mix a couple of things together. So, for example, here, normal voice. Once upon a time, there lived a witch.
Yes, the scariest witch in the village.
So you can have your own voice and the character's voice. Your own voice and the character's voice. And you'll see that you can give this quality to your voice in your story that can be really enticing, and it can keep your students, especially the ones who find it difficult to listen, it really keeps them engaged. So let's take the idea of the three little pigs. Perhaps we can think about the character of each one, and we can give each one a tone, a different tone, just because of their situation in the story and the action that they do. So, for example, the first pig could say, I'm going to make a house of straw. And then the next one, who's a little bit wiser, he might say, I'm going to make a house of sticks. And then the one that makes the bricks, he might say, I'm going to make a house of bricks. So each character has a slightly different voice, but it's still the teacher's voice, right? I thought it would be nice as well just to give you a couple of warm-ups, because sometimes we need to set up the story before we start, and we can do that by using a little verse to get our students organized and focused, looking and listening. And these are just a couple that I use. So we have this, for example, we can have a story in our hand and we can say, here's a story, I will tell you how. Lots of things for us to see. Let's get ready. And then you can get ready by, if they need to stretch or just sit comfortably, take a breath. Let's get ready now. So you use a little simple verse to get your students organized. And for the slightly older primary students, perhaps you can, let me just check here. Okay, all right. Perhaps you can use this black cloth. Are you ready? Sit right down. Let's have a story in the round. Brave heroes, many dangers, beasts and kings, old men, strangers. Sit as close can be and listen, shh, to me. So you can create very simple bit of atmosphere and get your students close to you and ready for the story and excited about it and engaged. Okay. I have also made the other day, I made these visual prompts We can do this physically, but I thought the visual prompts might be quite interesting. So I got the students to hands on head. Put your hands on your head, hands on your head. So it's like a little moving poster. I got all into this idea. I don't know how it happened, but I do like to make things out of paper. Here's another one, and it's very simple. You see, it's on a ruler, an old paintbrush. Touch your nose, touch your nose. Because we do need these sort of things as brain breaks, because our students can't stay very long in front of the screen. They need different things to happen. They need to get up, stretch, dance, all sorts of different things. I love this one. And stretch, everybody, stretch. And they think it's funny. It's different if we do it with our bodies to if we have something in our hands. And this one as well. This is the last one. Deep breaths. 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Very simple, made out of paper. Okay. And this happened actually because I was doing this for a teenager class, but I just thought it would be really nice to have some interactive posters. So here we have the Mona Lisa. Hello. So I can talk as the Mona Lisa, or I could be presenting something about art or history. Hello, I am the Mona Lisa. So you have to think about the Mona Lisa's voice, because the Mona Lisa doesn't speak like this. The Mona Lisa has a Mona Lisa voice. Okay, so it's so simple, but it makes a difference. It makes your students want to come to your classes. It makes your students want to watch you and make their own. I mean, we've had students who have made their own interactive masks as well. And that one is from this lovely storybook, what I'm going to talk about. It's called The Colour Monster. And it's perfect for right now because it deals with feelings, different feelings, and so here come the suggestions for the picture books. Okay, so the Colour Monster, what happens is he gets his emotions all mixed up, and I've done a little drawing. So he gets his all different emotions mixed up, and he's got this friend. And she says, oh, I can help you. You're all mixed up, Colour Monster. And so what happens in the story, and they have, you know, the illustrations are beautiful. The language is really simple. But what happens is the little girl helps the Colour Monster put each of his fears, each of his feelings into a little box, into a little bottle. So here we've got fear. We've got happiness. There's anger, and we've got calmness. So we can have these little things. We can get our students to make these things as well. And if we want to, we can keep the idea of this story in classes to follow when we want our students to be, can you be calm, please? Just like the Colour Monster. So really a simple piece of cardboard cut out and a bit of painting. Yeah, exactly, to keep our students involved. That's the key word. I've also been telling the story of the 3 little pigs, and I didn't use the book because sometimes it's complicated to use a book when we're having online classes. So everyone knows the story about the 3 little pigs. So we used instead some wooden spoons. You can see there we have straw, stick, we've got the brick, and this, which is a nutcracker, I found it in my kitchen. I thought it would be a very good wolf. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. So you can tell the story with kitchen utensils. Yes, everybody has those in their house. So there's no excuse. Even if we don't have books, right? Because we can find a lot of things online as well. And sometimes, depending on where you live, books can be very expensive. So I think that we have to be as resourceful as possible. This is another story that I think is beautiful story as well, about patience and perseverance. It's called How to Catch a Star by Oliver Jeffers. I've made it into, I made this story, I recorded it on an app called Clips, and I put it up on my YouTube channel because I added in some sound effects, and then I shared it with my school community. So you're very welcome to go there and have a look as well, because the apps that we have available on our phones are wonderful for stories as well. Okay, is everybody all right so far? Everybody? Nobody's fallen asleep? Yes, great, yes, okay, excellent. So let me talk a little bit then about illustrations, okay? Because there are hundreds of different illustrations, and we have to be the clever people. Eric Carle, he's wonderful too. We have to be the clever people to choose the right illustrations, the right books for specific groups that we have, you know. And I chose this illustration because it's so beautiful, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But I looked into the Global Stage book that we wrote, and I took out some images, and you'll see that in our course books we have lots of different images so that we can appeal to different tastes that our students have. So each image has a number here, and I thought you could just type into the chat box the number of the image that you like the most, or maybe it's more than one. Have a little look. Which image do you prefer? Number 2, number 6, number 6. Yeah, 6 is very sweet. Number 1, you see, we've got a whole story. It's a non-fiction story about doing yoga in class, which is lovely. Number 4, you like number 4 as well. It's a very personal thing, isn't it? The kind of illustrations that we like. But I would appeal to you teachers to always bring in something beautiful to your students, and nothing too caricature, nothing that looks like a cartoon too much off the TV, especially for the young learners. You know, they need the real and the beautiful as a reference. You like number 4, yeah. Okay, so how do we use the first page in a story or the cover of the storybook? We can use visual thinking routines. And the particular one that we use with like 7-8-year-olds with primary kids is this one. It's called See, Think and Wonder. And we use it to activate prior knowledge. And when we activate prior knowledge in our students, they get engaged with the story because they're going to personalize it to themselves, right? And we're also going to entice them to think about, to lead to further thinking, right? Not just, oh, it's a picture of a monster. No, let's find out about why is the monster sad? What are the feelings he's feeling, for example? So let's have a little look here. I'm afraid that this next slide, it does have a lot of writing on it, but let's have a look here where it says see. And then you can also put your answers into the chat box. So have a look at this image. And the first question is, tell me some of the things that you can see. What can you see in this picture here? You can see a fire, good. There's a meeting going on, good. Light, fire, a forest animals, great. Friends having fun. You can see friendship, sky. And then you ask again, can you see anything else? Because you want to get more details. A rabbit, a wheelbarrow, okay, great. Lots of stars. So you're going to, trees are going to fine tune what the students see. A bat, great. Sharing, friendship, wonderful. A campfire, okay. And then you're going to leave that on to thinking, okay. So you're going to ask these open-ended questions. What time of the day do you think it is? When is it? Is it early morning, late at night? Do you think it's nighttime, about 9 p.m.? Is it a garden or a forest? What do you think? You think it's a forest? Yeah, I think probably. Which animal there do you think is the leader? Is it the owl, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the badger? Is it the squirrel? Perhaps it's the bat. Who do you think is the leader there? You think it's the badger, or the bear, yes. He does look like he might be the leader, doesn't he? What do you think they're talking about? What's the subject of what why are they having the meeting? What are they talking about? A plan, perhaps magic. Okay, we're talking about food. They're going to have a party, a story. Oh, they're talking about a dangerous snake. Ooh, okay. So you'll get these ideas from your students, and then one step more is getting them to think about what that makes them think more about. What does that make you wonder? Yeah. Do you wonder if animals really do that? I wonder if they've been there long. I wonder who made the fire. So you open up the wondering question and your students will come up with answers. They do that. They really do that. So it's our job to ask clever questions. And when you have a visual thinking routine, it really helps you, to make the thinking, to organize the thinking as well. Okay, great. Thank you very much for your input. It's wonderful. So if we take a story, for example, let's say we've done the see, think and wonder routine here. Then we're going to get into the story, and the story can have sound effects. In my stories, I have this instrument here, and it makes the sound of thunder and lightning, which is perfect for a storm. Yeah, so we have that possibility. We could have the possibility of the students making the sound of the rain with 2 pieces of paper. Yeah. And the clouds are grey. The tall trees sway. A storm is near. A storm is here. I want to run away. My house is warm. My house is dry. My house is safe. Now, this is like a little phrase that repeats itself through the story, so we can use some total physical response with our students, giving them the sense of being warm, dry, and safe. And we can repeat this action. So we draw them in. We have sound effects, we have the words, we have actions that we can use with their bodies. And basically, I won't tell you the whole story because maybe you want to find it in one of the books. But that's what I would do with the story. And also, we could, if we're going to tell the story in a physical face-to-face classroom, we could build this little tent and we could tell the story to our students inside it. Yeah. So you create not just by the images, but by the clever questions and by the extra things, the pieces of cloth, your voice, the things that you bring to the story. It's never just about the book. It's much, much more than that. Okay. I need to move on because I have other things to show you. So in terms of working with stories, this is just one of the ideas from the Global Stage Literacy strand, that we would have our so-called comprehension questions. Why does the girl want to run away? A storm is near. What does the girl shut and lock? The door. What sounds does the thunder make? Boom. Which room does the girl sleep in? Her bedroom. How does the girl get to sleep? She counts sheep. So here you've got the answer and the question, but if I took away the question and gave my slightly older students just the answer, I could get them to write the question as well. You can notice here that the answers for this comprehension are exactly how they're written in the book as well. Yes, they're exactly the same as they are in the story. So this is also reinforcing what the written word looks like as well. Yeah. And one other lovely, the name of this book, it's the Macmillan Global Stage. It's the literacy strand of the book. And this particular story is called The Storm. I think it's in Unit 7, something like that. Okay, now here's another thing that we can do as well. And this is particularly nice for younger children who don't write or read. if we've used a story like that, especially about the little girl who was scared of the storm, we can then bring up the idea about feelings and when are we scared? What are we afraid of? Okay, we can think about it and we can discuss and we can say it's fine. Everybody's frightened sometimes, you know. And then with this very simple little graphic, we can get our students to draw inside something they're frightened of and something that makes them feel safe. So we are working with early literacy skills here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that our students have to read and write already, okay? We can read and we can understand things through their drawings as well. So I really love this. I think it's very inclusive and it will involve all types of different levels that children have, and it's very respectful as well to the different kids that come into our classrooms, right? I think you would agree. Now, my little anecdote is about this monster, and this is the real envelope that my little daughter thought was living under the stairs in our house, because we have a cupboard under the stairs. Now, children are very graphic, aren't they, about their thoughts and their feelings. And you'll also see next to this monster envelope, you'll see a picture that a teen drew about her feelings too. How can I escape from the demons in my head? I'm afraid she spelt demons wrong, but it really doesn't matter. You'll see that teenagers have fears as well. And sometimes they can't express those fears. So that's why arts are so beautiful, because they really have that inner message that comes out. You see, she even has a little teddy bear, which is a reference to childhood. So back to the anecdote about this envelope. So I have a daughter, her name is Flora. She was about 7 years old at the time, and she was scared of the monster under the stairs. So I said, okay, let's write a letter to the monster to see all about him, you know, to find out who is he, what does he look like. So we entered into this dialogue, and here are the little letters that she's written. She wrote in Portuguese, but she said, dear scary monster, what do you look like? Are you coming out, or are you staying in the cupboard under the stairs? And she says here, leave the answer in the garage, because she doesn't want the monster to come out. So then the monster writes back, dear Flora, I'm not coming out of the cupboard under the stairs, because if you don't know, I'm also scared of little girls. And anyway, we have this dialogue that goes back and forth and back and forth, and Flora's writing letters and the monster's responding. And you know what happened? Piece by piece, the fears about the monster under the stairs disappeared. Yeah, and this was a very nice, real story that happened with a real child, you know. And when you tell a story like that and you show the envelope with the letter, it just makes it so much more meaningful. And the same daughter and the other daughter I have, they also made a little message to the gnomes that come at Christmas, and they also made the gnomes a little jacket and a hat. So, you know, using children's imagination and making it really real and listening to them, you know, is absolutely priceless. Is absolutely priceless. All right, so I'm going to wind down now, okay, because we've got a few more minutes, and I kind of wanted to show you a lovely song as well. I do want to tell you, though, that we still remain the guiding light for our students. And even though working online is really challenging for so many of us, you know, don't give up. Keep working with those children. Keep the connection, okay? It's really, really important. And to recap, okay, use short and simple stories, okay, piece by piece. Try something new. Enliven your story by using objects like the thunder drum, exactly. Experiment using different voices and characters if you can. Ask your students those clever open-ended questions to draw them into your story. And if you can, try some apps as well, so that you can record stories and send those stories. If you don't have time in your online class, send a story for your student to watch at another moment when you haven't got class. And I think, remember that we're not going to go back to what was before. We cannot go back to how we taught before, okay? We have to move forward, and we have to apply all these newfound skills that we've been working on in our remote teaching, because together it is our job to help the next generation. So I'm going to share this lovely song with you now before I finish. I hope it works. This is a song that I used at the end of the first term, and well, you'll see. Dum, 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 dum,
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Close to the ones today, close to the ones that we lost on the way, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feels like December when somebody sang your name, 'cause I can't call you, but I know I will one day, yeah.
Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday, yeah. And everything will be alright. What is said? Hey,
here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Close to the ones today, close to the ones that we lost on the way, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. Memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember, that I never felt so lost, when I felt that all that was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feels like an echo, and it's lighting up the dark. I'll carry these torches for you, but you know I'll never die.
everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday, hey,
But everything will be alright. Don't lose your voice, you say. Here's the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but not, 'cause the dreams all the memories of everything we've been through. Close to the ones today, close to the ones that we lost on the way, 'cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. Memories bring back
Oh. What a beautiful song, right? It's pretty powerful, and yeah, most of the times when I've played it to my students, I've been a bit tearful as well, because it's just got such a beautiful message. Yeah, well, that's on YouTube. That's a song. The choir is called the One Voice Children's Choir, and it's a song on YouTube. It's by Maroon 5. It's called Memories. So thank you so much for being a part of the webinar. Hi, Mariella.
A lot of thank yous, wonderful, great. I was having a look at the chat. Thanks. Yes,
Oh.
yes. It was beautiful, actually,
Oh,
beautiful.
people.
And we have some minutes if you want for some questions. I don't know if you have any questions. There was the question of the musical instruments. Everybody was asking, what is that? The palo.
So
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a shop. I bought it from a craft person in a market here in Florianopolis. But I think you can make it, you know. It's a cabasa, you know, they're sort of gourd fruit. And then
Yes.
underneath is a drum and a spring, you know.
Yes,
and so
yes.
it makes a vibration.
Yes, yes. Somebody mentioned that you can Google it, and on YouTube there is a video on how to make one. So yes. What do you
Definitely
call them in
worth it.
Brazil? Somebody is asking.
I think
What do
I
you
call
call
it
them in
the
Brazil?
Máquina de Trovoada, the thunder machine.
Somebody is asking the Instagram. Well, the Instagram is there in the slide.
Yeah.
At Lucy Crichton, yes, or at there you have her contact, Lucy's contact details. Sorry?
So if you want the slides, I can send them by email. If you want to follow the work that I do, there's my name, and then my school here in Florianopolis is called the Secret Garden English School. And we're always sharing ideas, because this is the beauty of being part of a big teaching community, is this beautiful thing of sharing ideas and helping each other. I've never seen so many people doing it right now, and it just warms my heart no end.
It's so true. Yes. Yes, exactly. There is a question. When you do these see, think, and wonder activities from the visual routines, do you do it in English even when the children have a very low level? That's one
I
question.
think it's fine. It's completely fine to do it in their first language if they're very low level. And, you know, it's completely fine. There's no point in forcing. If they don't understand anything, of course you can use their first language. And piece by piece, you know, you'll put in a word. You know, if I do it in Portuguese, I might say something like, "Meu Deus, porco, a pig, can you see? Olha lá." So you make it like a sandwich of language. And, you know, little children are going to use what they know. They're going to use their first language to understand a second language. So make it natural and don't get worried about using L1. You know, it's what they do naturally.
Yes. Yes. What stories do you recommend for adolescents?
Yeah, so like I said, I've used I really love the Macmillan ones. Like we've used Robin Hood, we've used Sherlock Holmes, we've used Phantom of the Opera, we've used The Picture of Dorian Gray. All the readers for teenagers, the sort of lower intermediate, elementary. You've got elementary, lower intermediate, intermediate, upper intermediate. You have the books, you also have the worksheets. It's very supportive for teachers. But, you know, we've always used those books and we've made them into the most amazing plays. I had a student who played the violin and he did the music for the Phantom of the Opera, and we adapted the story for our spring concert. So those books, you know, simplified classics, biographies, Malala, you know.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. And well, somebody was asking if this presentation, presentation session is going to be, we are going to, yes, post it on our YouTube channel. Yes, exactly. We're going to post all the sessions from the conference.
Oh, that's
all right.
Good.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Lucy. It was great.
Oh,
I want to show teachers, now that you mentioned the storytelling, yes, we have some resources for you. Yes, Lucy used some of the examples from this series. Yes, and we have prepared these are resources for you, free resources, a selection of videos extracted from a global stage, which is one of our newest primary course. And these videos for teachers and students all over the world. So Storytime with Global Stage video presents a series of beautiful stories with text on screen so your students can read as they listen. And there are different stories for different levels. Yeah? And to make the most of using these videos for your online teaching, you can download teaching guides of the Storytime with the videos from the book. So if you follow the link and sign up, you'll receive access to this exclusive teaching material. So this is something extra as well. So please do visit our webpage. Yes, maybe I can write, just give me a second, I can write the in the chat box. I can put, yes, if you visit that page, yes, you will have the resources. Okay, so thanks again, Lucy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. I teach adults, and I was thinking while I was listening to you, I'm going to use storytelling with my oldies because they're going to love them as well.
And that's beautiful because they're going to have their life stories to share. You
Exactly,
know? It's so
exactly.
powerful.
And everybody loves talking about emotion, and we need to talk about that nowadays, especially. Yes.
We're going to need it a lot.
All right. Yes, exactly.
All right.
Well, we are going to meet again at 5 o'clock, yes, for Alistair Grant's session. You don't need to disconnect, just stay there, and we'll see you in a minute. So you can have a short break, prepare coffee, tea, mate, and go to the toilet, and just relax a little bit, yes? We'll have this break time. Okay, see you at 5 then.
Thank you to Juliana.
Thanks again. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Favourite teachers at school or lecturers at university who, by planting the seeds of curiosity and imagination and developing a real love of knowledge, inspired you to achieve more on your learning journey, helping you become the educator you are today. Now it's your turn to prepare students for successful lives in a more complex world. Imagine having the certainty that no matter how new discoveries transform our future, your students always have the right skills and knowledge to thrive in it, to appreciate different realities and viewpoints, to create a fairer and more inclusive vision of the world and pass it on to future generations. At Macmillan Education, we make this happen by working hand in hand with teachers and academics, building on our long-standing heritage of innovation in literature, science and education. We connect, we innovate, we inspire. Working in over 100 countries, we connect teachers in local communities to international experts and thought leaders, helping to bring the world into their classrooms and create a positive learning experience for millions of students around the globe. We embrace emerging educational needs, methods and trends like social emotional learning, life skills and global citizenship, creating innovative content, resources and technology that improve learning outcomes and make teaching rewarding. Always with teachers at the heart, we curate and share new ideas. We support and train, keeping thousands of educators inspired on the path of their professional development, helping them to stimulate the curiosity of their learners and to spread knowledge. We believe in a world where all teachers, wherever they are, have the right solutions to advance learning.